we'll just have an introduction on routing. Are you trying those components? MUI components. You are trying them, right? I given few example. Others I told you to try, because if you can practice those, it is good for designing for real world projects. More components from MUI are used. So if you practice those, then you will get an idea on different components, how to handle them. So you create all the components related, some examples one after another. So if you can do that in next level, we will implement in our applications. So what routing we discussed? Routing is, it is a technique of web development. In web applications, we use this routing technique for configuring SEO and user-friendly URLs. Navigation is managed through routing, especially in single-page application. What is the concept is, implicitly they use AJAX. That AJAX allows to load new content into the page without reloading the page. So actually we have to depend on a lot of explicit AJAX. You know, you can build single page application in jQuery also. So, but lot of AJAX is required to build such an environment. Now routing allows to manage. And as we discussed, it is used both client side as well as server side. Server side apps also can use routing for API setup. Client side, we are using routing. And in React, two versions of routing are popular. React 5, routing 5 and 6. Up to 17 version, the popular routing is 5. From 18 onwards, we have the routing 6. And routing 6 is complete change when compared to routing 5. That means the configurations, the complete syntax approach, they changed. Library changed. So we discussed last session how to set up routing. So install routing library. I showed you the routing library is npm install React router do. This is the library you need to use routing. So this library provides some important components. By using those components, we build the route. So what are the route components? So what are the components used for route? That means this library will provide some components. By using those components, you have to build the route. So what are the important components for route? We have browser router. So we have a component browser router. What is the purpose of this browser router is? So it creates virtual routes, that maps to actual DOM, location object. location object, actual DOM location object. You know, in browser, navigation is managed by which object? Location. JavaScript have a location object. In JavaScript, how you navigate from one page to another dynamically? On you have a login page. If login is success, it should go to home page. Otherwise, it should go to invalid page. How you will navigate dynamically? By using location. You know, location have href, location have path. So navigation in browser is managed by location. You JavaScript objects 5 are there: window, location, navigator, history, and document. So you know the actual DOM objects, huh? So JavaScript DOM objects are these. So these are the actual DOM objects. We have a window, we have a location, history, navigator, and a document. What is the job of navigator object? It is used to access and control the browser version, browser cookies, browser plugins, browser related all details can be managed through navigator. History can be managed by using history. What pages you visited previous, move to the previous page in history. All such things we can do with the history. Location is for navigation. That means navigating from one page to another, get the path name, get the URL, set the URL, set the path. All these things we do with the location. Document, you know, we do all DOM manipulations here. Add element, get element by ID, render element. For example, if anybody asked you like alert belongs to which object? Alert belongs to window. Fetch belongs to window. Fetch also belongs to window, which uses an Ajax call. So technically, the navigation, is managed in actual DOM by using location. But our React cannot use that location. So it uses a component called browser router. This browser router handles navigation in virtual DOM and it maps to the actual DOM. In actual DOM, it maps to which object? Location object. So browser router is responsible for making your routes understandable to browser, because usually routes are not understandable to browser. They are need to be translated. By browser router it will do. So make sure that all your routes happens within this scope. So that is very important. So make sure that the complete routing in application is configured within the scope of browser router. That is very, very important. You have to make sure that the entire routing in application is configured within the scope of browser router. Next, we have routes. Another component is routes. Component means usually they are like this. Components are accessed in this way, right? So this is components. We have a browser router, we have routes. What is the purpose of routes is it configures a virtual route table. It configures a virtual route table. It is going to configure a virtual route table. So which contains collection of routes, collection of routes in your application, collection of routes in your application. So you remember the introduction, we discussed that every application will have a route table. So in the beginning, we discussed an architecture. The high level flow we discussed in the beginning, which is this one. This flow we discussed in the beginning. So every application has some components. Which component to be delivered to client, when it should be delivered to client, what components can be delivered to client, all that information is maintained in a table. That table is called route table. When user makes any request, it will verify whether the requested path is available in its route table. If it is available in route table, then it will load the component. It renders the component to the client. If it is not available, it returns the status code like 404 not found. So actually, in the example of you saw Amazon. In Amazon, when I here in the URL, I am typing /mobiles, then it gets mobiles related page. Automatically mobiles page open. Suppose I am using like watches, automatically watches related will come. Suppose I am searching televisions, and enter, it says I can't get this for you. Why Amazon is not having televisions details? It is having, but they don't have a direct access to that. How you can say direct access is not there? Because they don't have a route defined for that. They want you to go to that through various other categories. Directly from URL request, that is not allowed. That means, what does this means? The previously what you requested, they are defined in a route table, and this is missing in that route table. So you requested something, it is not available in the table, then it will deliver you this message. This is actually because of this route table. To create this route table is collection of path and component. That means on which request, which component should be delivered. Like that, it is a collection of several. So that is defined through a routes. Program, according to program traditions, a plural value refers to multiple collection. So we say routes, that means it is referring to a collection. So collection of routes. Okay. In this collection, how every route is defined? In this collection, every route is defined by using route. you have a component called route. This route, it configures a route path with component to render. It configures a route path with component to render. So it can be nested with the child routes. It can be nested with child routes. That means a route can have a route inside again. It can be nested with child routes. So routes usually have a collection of route. Every route is defined by using route. It is defined by using route. So in this route table, this is one route. This is another route. We have multiple routes. So, and these are present in a routes collection. It is a routes collection. In that routes collection, you have routes. And actually, in this route, there can be another route. That means there can be nested. For example, you went to a category called footwear. In footwear, there can be again several levels, like it can have brand wise, like Nike, so separate category, like Adidas, separate category, like that. That means it can have routes inside routes. Nested also can be there. We will design such nested route. So a route may have child routes inside. It can be configured with child routes also. So next we have an outlet. It defines the location to render requested content. It defines the location to render requested content. Outlet defines where to render the requested content. Actually, it is required for child routes. When you are using child routes, so this is required. Without that, also we can manage. So it is mostly required, we'll say. Mostly required for child routes. So outlet means where to deliver that. For example, you might have seen web pages. Generally, when you are watching any page, suppose I selected some option like sign in.
अब गल्फ में काम खत्म हो रहा है।
Now, where this sign in option will display, where this sign in option should display. When you selected sign in, where it should display. Sometimes, websites, they give in the toolbar itself to sign in. Sometimes they give inside the page to sign in. Sometimes they give some inside the nav bar to sign in. That means the location where to show that content that you requested, that can be dynamically changed. Some content, suppose you selected some video, you will see that video will not place in the center of page, some right side corner. That means some advertisement, some right side corner, their places are fixed, they are not in the center. That means when a user requests any content where to show that content, that we can decide. That is actually managed by using outlet. An outlet decides where to render the content requested by the client in a page only, but in a page where that you have to decide. This is mostly used while using the child routes, right? Another one, we have a link. It is used to configure a hyperlink that navigates to the path defined in routing. So you cannot use anchor element. Here you cannot use anchor element for navigation.
ये रेडियो का हाई पे ला हमें हाई पड़ेगा
Here navigation is managed by a separate element called link. This link is different from another link. Actually, you know, you have a link and you have a link. These two are different actually. That lowercase link is your HTML, which refers to CSS pages and all. The uppercase link is not CSS. In especially JSX, these all will matter. Already I told you once, form is different, form is different.
ऑप्शन बंद कर दे कि दिखाई में ना करेगा
We discussed this point now. So what is the uppercase form? It is a component of formic library. If you write that, then it will not treat it as a HTML form. So this link is used for navigation. Route path navigation cannot be done using anchor. You have to do that by using link, right? Initially, these are the components you need for routing. The important components for routing. We need some important hooks are required for handling. Later we will learn more hooks. So hooks we will see later. First, let's see how these work, how these components are going to work. Right? Before that, we need to build one interface. That means all these days what we done, we are changing the component in the startup. That means in index we are changing. That means we added one component, go to index, there change the component name. Before that, what it was having, whenever you create a React application, by default it is starting with one component called app. App component is the component which is in startup. So let's see how to design. Now for this we will create a new project. Another project we will create to reduce all the confusion. In this project also we can do that, we will come back. We will create a new project so that in that project we will have only routing so that it will not confuse, because already in our project so many components we added. Later we will go there to add the routing there. We will go to first we need to create a project, open the command prompt.
ना हम लोग जा रहे थे तो यहाँ घर चार्जर लावे और के बाद मेरे पेशाब लग गया
In the command prompt I selected some location like F drive. Okay, So what we will do is,
अरे ई दोनों का मिला भागा था ऐसे ये उंगली की इस बार इसकी हड़काओ
I
ये
will
हड़केगा
create a
भागेगा
project
वही
called
दोनों तेज का कर रहा था
suppose npx create React app, and I will give as React routing project. That's the option I am giving. Okay, we are creating a new project for routing.
इससे हम आगे थे बहुत पहले
अगर मान लो सब कभी सब दिख भी जाए ना तो रुक के देखेगा ना है चुतीवन सब जाता है फिल्म उलिम में देखते जाके देखेगा कौन है तेरा बाप है
Okay, it is installing and creating everything. Let it
तो
do.
सब निकल जाएगा
वही ना
Meanwhile, now here
भागो वही
we will see another point
बहुत होता है सब
about the route hooks. Some important
इसे खुला एरिया है ना खुला एरिया में
इंसान
सब
का
route
भाई
hooks.
मुलाकात हुआ भाई अल्लाह करम से हमरा ना हुआ भाई सब
मजाक नहीं कर हम बहुत बार हम लोग देखे हम लोग को सलाम किए तो हम
Route have components and the route have hooks. One important route hook we have is use navigate is a hook. Use navigate is a hook.
रात में पेशाब करना है
What is the purpose of use navigate is it is used to configure dynamic navigation.
पड़ेगा एकदम ना फट
It is used to configure dynamic navigation. It is used to configure dynamic navigation. Dynamic navigation means
बड़ा बड़ा
user can navigate from one location to another according to the situation. That means user will not select where to go. We will decide where he has to go.
पापा ना है
That means when user enters some credentials, if the credentials are matching, we will send him to some other place. If it is not matching, we will send him to another place. That means where to user navigate, that we will decide. User will just enter some details. According to that, we will change his navigation dynamically. In many interviews, people ask for freshers, especially. For freshers, they ask on button click how to navigate. On button click how to navigate means they are asking that without a link, when I clicked a button, it should navigate from one location to another. Generally in JavaScript, without a link, how you will navigate? Generally what you do on button click function, you will write location dot what href and you will navigate to specific path. This is now managed in Virtual DOM by using use navigate. Use navigate is a hook through which you can navigate to any location dynamically. For that we need use navigate. Next important is use params. It is used to access the route parameters. It is used to access the route parameters. What are the route parameters we will learn? Route parameters usually required for querying any content. Suppose later you will see route parameters, not as of now required. Suppose you see you have amazon.in slash you have mobiles, but mobiles I want price above some 10,000. Then there are 2 points. You can pass a parameter. This parameter have one option like suppose you are looking for any brand directly you can pass the parameter Samsung like this. This is route parameter. In Samsung, any specific model, you can pass the model numbers, something. Any specific model. This is parameters. That means the actual route is this. It is expecting the parameter model name and this. These are called as what? Route parameters. That means which model he is looking for, we can get that information using route parameters. Sometimes search parameters also present. That means not just route parameters, search parameters. Search parameter is nothing but in search parameter we will put a query string question mark and we will put as a min price is greater than. That means for example you say GT. So that means actually it uses an ampersand symbol. Ampersand GT. Ampersand here in my marker it is not available. It uses like ampersand GT. Ampersand GT how much? Ampersand GT is some like this. That means we can define such parameters. You will later learn about them. So route have two parameters. Directly route parameters, search parameters. You can access search parameters, search params. So it is used to access the query string actually from URL. The query string from URL. Sometimes the route, sometimes the search parameters. So important hooks we have used navigate, use params and such. Now let's see how define. First one, well, the application is successfully created. Let's close. We will open in Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, we will open our new folder. Open folder. I just created in my F drive React routing project. Okay, in this by default, by default app is in startup. App component is in startup. In index, app is in the startup. We will not change that. Let's run this here now. npm start. npm start, it is going to start with the app component. So it is going to launch the default component which is added in your template, and the default is app. That means the initial screen that you watch is index.html with a component called app. And in the index startup, always we keep this. If you want, you can add another and keep that. Doesn't matter. We will always keep this. Here, we want to create the navigation. Here, we want to create the navigation. That means this is coming from app.js. So, to create navigation, first step is to create navigation. We need to install router. So, npm install React router DOM. That is required. Remember, this is a new project. Here, Bootstrap, jQuery, all Axios, everything again you have to install. Whatever you install for the project, that is only for that project, right? Here, everything you need. Initially, React router is enough. So go to the package JSON, check is that router DOM is 6. In any project, if you are working some old projects, if the version is not 6, it is 5, then whatever components I showed you, they will not work. You need a different approach. So some components are similar, but some different. The library is different, importing using the library is different, and configuration is different. Currently, first we will see for this one. So what we will do now, go to src and app.js. This is the component which is delivered to us. Here I will just remove all this, and we are planning for routing. I will just put a header, and in the header I am just adding a heading 1, and we will put here as suppose shopper, something like this, and align to center. Okay, now this is the shopper we are having. Fine. Now in this we want some navigation. Currently I will show you how we can deliver the content. Remember, whenever user requests anything, you can deliver a component related to that which is already built, or you can dynamically create a markup and send. You can dynamically create a markup and send. That means sometimes when user requests, we don't have that content. Then according to his request, we build the content and send it. That is possible. That means we can create a markup and send it. So that means the point here is, suppose user is searching for some product name. How we know that he is searching for that product name? From the URL we will capture it. And we don't know that he will search by that name. But what we have to send as message that the product you are searching is not available. You may try like this. We will give some suggestions. A markup is built dynamically depending on the request, or markup may be already ready which you will deliver to the request. Depends, we'll use both of them. See, first how to design the routes. Just like Amazon we will design, means mobiles, watches, what they have, just message. So to configure the routes, I am creating a section. In this section, first we need to use a browser router. This is browser router. Browser route. This is from React router DOM. And important, I told you the entire routing should be inside this. That is the scope. That means it is just like a provider scope. Make sure that all the routing related any component is working inside this. Otherwise, it will show error. So, in this first, how do we define the routes? This is the scope. In that, we need a collection. How you create a collection? By using routes. So, that means in the browser router, we have to create routes. That's routes is a collection. In the routes collection, how do you build every route? By using a route. That means we are building the routes now. So I create a route. And every route can have child routes. If they are not having child routes, you can self end. But if they are having child routes, you cannot self end, because inside that again you have to write routes. Currently, level by level we will see. See, I told you routing is a big concept. Keep all questions with you only until I finish the concept. When I say routing is finished, then you can talk about the doubts on this, because lot of doubts will come. All solutions you are going to learn, but level by level, because it's a very complex topic. Lot of concepts are there. So level by level we will see. No hurry, because sometimes when we discuss one topic, you will get doubt related to another one, so which you will learn. But it will take time to explore everything, because it's a very huge concept. Level by level we will see. First level, what we are learning, how to design a route environment. First level, basic environment. Later we will see. Now in this route, what is the request you are expecting? The request path, how you are expecting. I showed you a route table. So the path is, the path I am expecting as, suppose home, like this. The path I am expecting as home, or the path I am expecting as mobiles. If anybody is requesting mobiles, then what do you want to deliver? That means you have to use element. In the old version, they used to call it component, but now they call it as element, because here element indicates which component you want to render. Which component you want to render. If you have a component, mention it. Or you want to build a markup, now you can build it. That means I will create a div. In this div, I will create a heading. In that I will say mobiles. And here we will put a paragraph. Suppose I say iPhone, so 14, some Samsung, like this we are giving, some Realme, like this. That means I built a markup here. This is not a ready-made component. We are designing some markup here. Okay, first we will see this. Next, if route is path, if route path is, suppose some watches, then element should be, it is to be delivering some div. So with some heading, so we say watches, and here we will put some paragraph, some like fossil, like so fast track, like this. These are Apple, like this we are using, and this is the component done. Now here so many other points are there, I will explain. Now you open and see here, these are the routes configured. When we open and see here, refresh, you see there is nothing. That means when you open Netflix, by default Netflix have a screen to show you. It is not empty. It is not empty. By default Netflix have a screen to show you. You open Amazon, by default Amazon have a screen to show you. It's not empty. Now our page also, if user is not requesting anything, you want to deliver some default. That is designed like this. If user is requesting something and which is available, then these we will do. You observe now at the top in the URL now. In the URL, I will type here /mobiles. I am just using mobiles and hit enter. Then you see mobiles page came. Mobiles is coming. And I am requesting here another one. What is it? Watches. Then it will get the watches information. If I am not requesting,
Recording in
then
progress.
how you design such route? We have to configure the route
लगा दे तो
with
13% बजा ना
a path
हाँ
as
जल्दी जा
with a path as
अन्ना लगा
slash.
बजा
This
कहाँ लगा
indicates
इसका लगा जा
user is
अमित
not
चाबी मांगा भाग
requesting
जल्दी
anything. You know, slash
जल्दी भाग
refers to root level.
13%
If it
दौड़ के
is
जागी यार
root level of application, not requesting anything, then what is the element? The element I will deliver like a div, okay? And here we will put as some mobiles, some watches, so like footwear, like this we are using. So like fashion, like this we are defining. So that means what happens is if user is not requesting anything, by default they come. Here user is not requesting anything. If user is requesting some mobiles, then it will get mobiles. It will get the mobiles. So user is requesting watches, it will get watches. User is not requesting anything, then it will get this home. That means we can configure the route for default or for specific request. User is requesting slash here fashion. We don't have any route for that. Then it cannot be empty. It should show like Amazon. You don't have a category. You are looking for something else. That means now what we will do is here we have to write another route. That is route. If the route path is asterisk, they refer to something which is not available. That means asterisk. Asterisk refers to a path which is not available in the existing. If they are requesting something, then element, we will keep the element div. Here I will put a code. You know, HTML have a code element, say not found. And we will put a message, page you requested, or say category you looking for not found. Like this we will keep. That means usually what happens now, so you see fashion, it will show like this. Suppose I am requesting watches, it will get me the watches. I am requesting like suppose footwear, there is no footwear, so not found. The category you looking for not found. We are directly rendering some markup. So how do we build the routes? So building the route will be like this. So configuring a route table. How do you configure a route table? First you need browser router. In that browser router you need routes. In that you need a route. We'll have a path and we have an element. You have lot of other details also, but initially this is enough. So we have a route and the path and element. Close the routes and close browser router. So that is how you configure a route table. And important here, so you can configure route, you can configure default route for application using slash as route path. That means we can write route path is slash, and element here default component to render. What is the default component to render? You can define. You can configure wildcard route for application using asterisk, which refers to component to render when a requested path is not available, or you can say not found. So that is a wildcard route for application. This is not only for React. Almost all technologies that use routing, same mechanism. Angular, React, server side routes also same. So same means the wildcard routes. Like, so we have route. If the path is asterisk, then the element to deliver. So not found. I just configured that. Now this is okay, but we will not ask user to request from URL, because how user knows that you have watches or you have mobiles category names? How he knows how you spell them, right? That means we are not sure about the users, how they query. And then usually what we do, we don't want them to just depend on this. We will provide a navigation to them. So whenever user opens here in the shopper, what we are doing is, in this router here, this is the location where it is rendering. All the content it is rendering here. Now here I am using a division. Suppose this is like now. It's a now. In this now, I am using a link. Link is an element. This link element is saying home. And I just put a span like this. Span, just separator roughly. Or you can separate using other also. Another link we are giving, and the link is having some mobiles. Another link we are having some watches. Like this we are defined. This link is like an anchor. It belongs to router DOM. That means here you are having home, mobiles and watches. I will keep certain, here we don't have bootstrap. Then we will do one thing. Just I will keep a separator like this. Just a separator I am adding there. Okay, later we will put bootstrap and other. Now below this, let's keep a HR, horizontal line. A separator will come, horizontal line. Now what should happen when user clicks home, mobiles, watches? Mobiles should get mobiles. Watches should get watches. Then see what we are doing here is on this link, click. That is a component which path it has to go. That path is defined using to. Link to. Link to which path? The path is mobiles. And link to. This link to the path. Remember, this should match with the path names. Capitalization, everything matters, right? So the path name is watches. Okay. Now what this should link to? That should link to slash. So now here you see when I click on mobiles, then mobiles will come. And I click on watches, then watches will come. And it is getting that details and showing. When it is accessing the details, you can observe this reload button. That means page is not refreshing. Without refreshing, the new details are coming into the page. That means the same you can do in JavaScript also. But in JavaScript, to do that, you have to use XML HTTP request. You learned in JavaScript. jQuery also you can do. jQuery uses AJAX, right? You developed single page applications in JavaScript also. That's it, not a new thing, because people are talking about single page applications. The world's single page application, first single page application is Twitter. And Twitter is there before these React Angular born. That means now people say, why you are learning React Angular? The first point they say, building single page application. We can build with JavaScript also. And there are so many built with jQuery, JavaScript. But they may simplify the process. And implicitly they are using AJAX. And here, this is just accessing our elements and displaying. You can have a component, we can bring the component and display. And when you define the path, how you configure a link. So you can configure a link for navigation. That refers to, you can say which refers to, so which refers to route path, which refers to route path. So this link have to and the path. That means you have to define the path name. And here you have the text or image or any graphic you can keep, because link can be anything. A link can be a text or an image clickable. It can have anything inside. It's just a container. You know, in HTML, anchor means not text. Can be text or image or anything can be clickable. So you can configure a link for navigation. You can define a link for navigation. Here in interviews, very popular question asked in interviews is, what is difference between absolute path and relative path? That's a very common question in interviews, even for a fresher experience level, because generally experienced people already have an awareness on this. So usually for freshers, this is a very common question. What is absolute and what is relative? Actually in React, how do we define? Generally, relative path is usually used for child routes. Later you will see in child routes. Generally what happens is, I am having local host In that 3000, in that we have mobiles. Now what happens is, already I'm in mobiles. There is a link. So we created a link. This link have to navigate to watches like this. If I mention like this, and here I say click. When user clicks this link, means not now, later in child you will get this. Now what happens is, this watches is added to mobiles. That is added to mobiles. That means in mobiles / watches. That means if you write any path like this, this becomes a relative path. Relative path means already if a path is constructed, to that this will add. Then sometimes it may go wrong, because watches I want to access separate category. It is a separate category. It is not a category of mobiles. But it is being accessed as mobiles, then it will show invalid. Then how this problem is solved? Now developers will write the path like this: link to / watches. This is absolute path. This slash indicates up to the root level cleanup. Up to the root level cleanup, delete everything and add from root again. Add from root again means this watches will be added here by removing the existing path. If you give like this, it is a relative path. That means it is going to add to existing path. This will have a good feature while designing child routes. While child routes, you need relative path. While accessing the path which is not relative to the current, you have to use an absolute. So what is difference between these two? Actually, relative path refers to a child path which is added to current path, So you have link to, this is some watches, something like this. This is relative. That means what happens if HTTP localhost, some path is there, some mobiles, it will add watches like this. Absolute path refers from the root level, It is not relative to current path. So that we write like this: link to / watches. As of now, you don't have any issue, because we don't have any child. When child paths will be there, this issue will come. That's the reason now you don't need to write /. Even you write / doesn't matter. You can write, but it is not required. That means what it will do? HTTP localhost / watches, like this it will add. That means it will clean up the existing path and it will put this. So how do we define that? Now see here, when we are defining the links, I already configured the links. So let me remove the nav here and keep it in the header area. In the header area, after the heading, we are using a nav. And you see error comes. You know the reason why now? Why the error comes? What is the reason you know now? Because all the routing components must be inside browser router, inside that scope. And you are trying to put them outside, link outside. It's not possible. All the route components, as we discussed, they must be within the scope of browser router. They must be within the scope of browser router. That means these navigation must be inside the browser router only. That navigation should be inside browser. That's the reason sometimes people have an habit of writing this at the beginning itself, top level, so that everything the design inside it, including headers, footers, everything. That means they can shift this browser router above the header. That is fine. If you are doing that, then you have to manage others also in a same way. Because currently I kept it inside this. Now I can keep this outside here. Like this we can manage. That means the header section, everything will be inside the browser router only. That's the scope how you configure. That means this is okay. That means that's how we define. Now in this case, what you can do, this nav part, you can remove from here and you can keep in the header area. You can define in the header area and you can specify that. You know, already we learned Bootstrap. If you use Bootstrap, you create responsive navbar. You create side navigations. User can choose which one he wants. Dynamically, those things you can achieve now. For example, suppose this navigation you want effective. Then what we do? Now you know how to set up. What we need to do? npm install what it is, bootstrap icons, bootstrap icons. So and we will see bootstrap icons we are installing, and we will link this. Okay, now here we will go to index.js. Here we are importing. Importing is one node modules, bootstrap, dist, css, bootstrap.css. Another, we need to import node modules, bootstrap icons, font, bootstrap icons.css. We need to import asterisk as a bootstrap from what it is, bootstrap. You need to set up. In app.js, you see now here in the header, area, I am creating a button and a class name bi justify. So and btn some dark. This is the button we are having. Just roughly I kept that. And here class is margin of 4. Yeah. And container I will give like this. Now what should happen is, initially this is the content we are having. Now what we will do is, inside the header button we will keep a nav. So here we will keep a div, and this div we will keep with a class of canvas. So of canvas we have start. Of canvas have an ID is navbar. Inside this of canvas we have a class. This is of canvas header. In this, a heading is like shopper, and we have a button. So class name btn and btn close. And the data bs dismiss is what? Of canvas. And we have a div. This div will have a class of canvas body. In that we added this navigation. In that we added a navigation. We can keep this navigation in an suppose unordered list. So class as list unstyled. Okay. And in this we have a list items. And the list item is having, one is this link. That is one list item. Another list item we have mobiles. That is another link. And another list item we are having watches. These links are kept in those list items. Okay, now this is the navigation in off canvas. On this button click, data bs toggle. Toggle is what? Off canvas. And data bs target. Target is what? Hash navbar. That means now what happens is, when I click on this, it will open this. And you selected some mobiles, it will get the mobiles. You click on this, you say watches, it will get those watches. The home, that means it will get the home. Right? You can put the margins, padding, spacing, everything you want. That is basically how we can configure the navigation. But make sure everything is inside this browser router. This is a simple navigation for your application. Now in this we have only elements, but now we need components. That means I click login, then login component should come. In login component, user will enter ID, password. If success, we will take him to another component. If failure, we will take him to another. Dynamically navigation. Routes with parameters, routes with child routes, routes with outlets. So much is there. That we will see in next session. Right? First, I will give this example. Here, you have to install all these things. One is npm install bootstrap icons and react router dom. All these you have to install. That is the first step. So, and actually this is our new project. This is react router what I given the project, react routing project. In this project you install all this, then just you have to go to index.js. In the index.js you need to import this you have to import that in index.js and go to src app.js. In that you have to add all this routing. App.js code is this one. These are the changes you need to do. Now the rest of the navigation, how it works, we will see. We will build one complete interface of navigation. So many points are there. Nested routes, child routes, route parameters, search parameters, that we will see in next session. Monday we will continue. Okay, right.
जाने उधर निकाह होवेगा सब चीज होवेगा उन्हें बारात आवेगा कहाँ मस्जिद में उधर ये तो लोग खाना उना खाली नाश्ता भी कर लेगा बाल के पानी हाल बाल दे के टेस्टिंग बना ठीक कर लगता सच ना है नहीं लगा नाश्ता कर लेगा झमेला हो जाएगा खाना वहाँ पर पूरा सब खाली नाश्ता करके इतना रहेगा सब HAMDY हमदान भैया है बेचारे घर। अरे अरे पानी भर तो भर भर तो पानी भर सादा शर्ट पहना उतारी वाली तो भर तो
रे मतलब
अरे सादा शर्ट पहना उतारी
गिरेगा ना
सादा शर्ट नहीं होता सीधा है देखो रुक 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 ना रुक ढाले ले भर हाँ रख 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 एक बार इन्हें पर रहेगा सुफियान की तरफ देख नाश्ता बना हमको देख इन्हें पर रहेगा बना है दरवाजा मदसिया कपड़ा लगे मामी क्या है ने रे हाँ उन्हें उतार दे मदसिया ऐसे होता अरे ना हाँ देख रहे हैं ना हम कैसे चालू हो गए
कौन चीज
कैसे होता बता पानी दे देंगे ओके आ गए राहुल है चालू छोड़ दो जम गया करते हैं हाँ
भैया हमने से
हाँ वो सुखाया जाना देखो ना कपड़ा दे क्या है एक खांसी उठले रे गरम पानी कर ओ बोल दे तो पी लिया आई रे खांसी
अबे
बोल
अरे मेरे को बैठ में अबे 5-10 रुपए मिलेगा तो कितना होगा 35 रुपए 50
धपड़ धपड़ के पी लिया, अब सजा मिलेगा।
चल खेले बड़ा चलो बैठ ऊपर मिलते
हाँ, इन्हें पड़ा रूम में।
अरे बहुत बड़ा मिल गया आई ऐसे खड़ा हो जाते हैं
अरे भाग तो, ए राम, बोला तो राम भाग ले, भाग ले। ए राम भाग, भाग। हाँ, बेटा, मजरवा का। वो वाली हम चालू कर देंगे। देखो, कहाँ है? रोल बन रही है, सीधी है।
खाली
चाहे तो सुनो। अब ये घूम रहा तो कौन कर रहा है? बोलो बंद कर। चालू कर वही हो सकती है। फिर लेखा बोल रहा है। वोल्टेज बने हो का? नहीं नहीं। बंद कर। बंद कर तो जाओ यहाँ पर धूपा रहेगा। नाश्ता तो दबा दो।
चाय पी ले
हाँ,
आई
इधर
नाश्ता करना है पी ले
तुम्हारे तरह रहो कहाँ है? इसको लेके कि बुद्धि न मारो बस। फिटिंग यहाँ पर है। ये खेलते रहेगा अपना। बरस ला, अरे मुझसे क्यों बरस ला, देख के। ये तो इससे नहीं हो गया, जल्दी जल्दी। मेरा गुलाबी वाला मुझे पट्टा निकाल दो कहीं पर। वहाँ वहाँ बेटा वहाँ उधर में।
बाप रे बाप
अभी मत जो राम के साथ जाएगा कला वाला।
मैं
अरे तुम वहाँ नाश्ता नहीं खिलाया जा रहा है तो वहाँ चौकी पर बैठा रहेगा तो रो जाओ है रे सब खिलावेगा। अरे बेटी धीरे धस खेल रहा है। अगर तेरे बाहर रहा जाके बोल के हम लोग को पहले चाय बिस्कुट दीजिए फिर नाश्ता दीजिए फिर वो सेट में जाती शादी घर में रहा जाती रख दे बैग में पूरा मत रख दे लेता है साकी हाँ कहाँ है घर कहाँ से छोड़ दो जाओ नाश्ता कर जाओ। अरे
अबे कल पढ़े भाई। हाँ इसका लब्बन है देना तेरे पास मेरा वाला घर है पैसा बे वो भी आसिफ दे नहीं ये वाला मैं आसिफ के पापा है आसिफ के पापा ये तो मेरे पास भी था बहुत पहले लाया था ना। मेरा घर था ये पहले सब बहुत पहले लाया था ना। लाइट किससे तो जलता है बता कितना टाइम होगा 6 0 जे 6 1 हो गया 9 देख कितना हो रहा है देख
किया थे लोग नाश्ता करे रे
देख 10 6
दोनों को मारेगा। अरे दिया थे लोग रे ये जा
बस
अरे मुस्तकी बहना
का
बाद में खेलेगा शाम में जाओ वहाँ नाश्ता करके आओ।
मिल गया टंगा
जा अम्मी से मांगेगा
मिल गया देख
ना बन करना
9 10 9 10
जा रे बहुत हरामी
देख मेरा घर और मेरा सोना का घर मेरा है घर वाटर है ना ले लेगा रे ये वाटर ये भी है ना ये है वाटर इसको पानी से भी भरे कहाँ भी वाटर है पूरा डुबा दिए थे एकदम टेस्ट को सीटी जा ले लो ले लो चल ना बस चल बे निकाल रहा है पापा का चाबी खिलौना नहीं है हमने उसके ऊपर रात कटी अब मेरा किताब भी किस पे ही आए बोलना उसके पर आई तो निकल जाएगा बे का चीज निकल जाएगा कौन निकल जाएगा वो निकाल लेंगे इसके पर गोलू कहाँ है?
कहाँ खिलौना है?
कहाँ रखो?
कहाँ? उधर है।
हाँ वो कहाँ है? चिमकी में।
अच्छा वो चिमके में है। कुत्ता
कुत्ता
कुत्ते में था।
कुटिया में है पर चिमकी लोग कैसे हो गया? कौन सी आया था बे?
हाँ रे वही खिलौना है। हम लोग तो चिमके से बांधे थे।
9-12 हो गया बे। 9-12 ही
लो
दिखाता अपने मेरे दिन है वो रखेला
तो हमको भी घड़ी देना। एक हमको भी घड़ी
इधर है वो 6-9
देना।